Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Also check me out on Twitch as Floyd Mason.
Hello. Welcome back, Spooks fans. We are back with book number 6, Let's Get Invisible. Back to our Goosebumps reviews. And yeah, this is the next one up. A pretty classic one, I think. Definitely when I think back to these books coming out and people starting to learn about them and kind of read them. This one and Let's Say Cheese and Die are the two I really remember people talking about. They both had pretty good episodes of TV as well. This is another pretty solid episode. So maybe that's why. But I feel like when I first talked to people, like it was this one or that one that they read originally. Obviously, there's a huge one coming up that's pretty early in the series. But those two are the big ones. And then Let's Stay Out of the Basement, which again, great like TV show. So maybe people saw it and they wanted to read the book. Or maybe they were the better story. That's why they made such great TV shows. I mean, we'll see when we give this a score. Actually, do I have a score around for that? Where did I put my score sheet? So sorry. So I remember what I gave this one. I kind of tried to do it while I was reading it. Yeah. So for this one as well, I do have one of the newer reprints. So this is the 2007 one, which gives them all kind of a new title or new front page image. So I don't know. I mean, we'll get into it at the end, but they're both pretty decent. I don't necessarily like one over the other. I know. And I've heard in other reviews and whatnot that apparently they added the cobwebs to this one in the mirror, which kind of upset Jacobus. And I agree, it kind of looks a little cheap in there. But this might be one of the ones where I actually quite like this new one quite a bit. Like him disappearing is a little better with the head versus kind of like the lower half. But we'll see my rating at the end. But I think they're both pretty solid covers. So this book is another shocker, one about a pair of siblings. Again, I really feel like that was Stein's bread and butter to start. Especially again, I think it's a little easier to have two sibling dynamics kind of, they'll believe more of the weirdness that's going on versus, having to tell the parents or whatever. And the siblings, usually it'll kind of be like one's a little more sure than the other and a little more skeptic. This one, I mean, they have a different dynamic. They both believe it pretty quickly because it's pretty obvious what's going on. But there's a pretty good dynamic in this one. So the main character is a boy named Max, and he has his brother Lefty. I do think they say the brother's name, but I can't remember it. They call him Lefty the entire book because he's left-handed. Basically, that's where his nickname's from, and that he's, does everything with his left is kind of an important part of the book. And then it also focuses on his three friends, Zach, Aaron, and April, who kind of come, there's a couple other characters in the story, like you have the parents, obviously, the grandparents are in for a bit. The book starts with a birthday party, and they have a bunch of kids there, but it's really just about these kids. So there's a big party for Max, his birthday. He gets some gifts. At the end of the party, it's just Aaron and April left. And Lefty's there with him, of course, as well, being the brother. And their dog, Max and Lefty's dog, kind of goes up the attic. He's sniffing around something, and they go up and they find a secret door. And in it, there's just a room with this big mirror in it. So it's just this big creepy mirror. And it's spotless, which again is, I think, part of the reason Chikos was mad about the cover, was that it defined, it's like, oh, it's a spotless, like, untouched, weird aura mirror, and they put, like, a cobweb on it to make it look dirty, which I think just takes away, and I agree, it takes away kind of that imagery of just, like, the weirdness of going into an old, dark, closed-off room and something's just pristine condition would be very odd. You'd be like, what? How is this, like, there's cobwebs everywhere, but this is clean and perfect, like, what's going on here? So they go in. Zach isn't in this at this point. He had already left the party. But they go in. They're kind of playing with the mirror, and Max pulls a light cord on it, and there's a big flash of light, and the other three start freaking out because he's gone invisible. So again, he doesn't really believe them. He's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, no way. They click the switch pretty quick. He comes back, and the other three are a little freaked out of what happened. And again, Max just kind of just doesn't believe them. So, you know, Aaron and Lefty are like, wow, that's weird. Like, that's so cool. April, the voice of reason in this book, is just like, let's go. Let's get out of here. I don't want to mess with it. You know, I could see some people not liking it, and definitely in Wolf's John Wolf's review, he talks about how annoying April is, but I don't mind her so much. I kind of get it as being that voice of reason. Like, hey, let's not mess with this, because Max kind of starts to get to that point as well. So it's kind of like, you know, showing those two sides. I like it, a little reluctance to it, but yeah, I mean, you know, everyone's gonna have their own character. It's all just one of those like side notes as well. If I really got to get to reading these books, as I can't watch his newest review because I haven't read one of the books in a long time. He's gotten to a book that it's the first book I don't remember, and I've been trying to avoid watching others' reviews again, just because like I want to, you know, experience these again myself, my own way. So it's great getting these out and then being able to watch, especially Michael Goosebumps fans' videos, because I've watched most of his ranking ones and some of the newer ones, because it'll be forever to get to those books and I'll honestly forget what happened because I've never read them. But it's nice to see what other people have to say as well, kind of what we agree on, what we disagree on. You know, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to kind of see when I do my rating video if there's any that's like, wow, I can't, like, after rereading them, I can't believe that one's so high or so low. Which is always cool. But again, right, like, you have your opinions. Some people like the supernatural more. They're going to have a very big different like of them than I do. So getting back to the story, sort of with my little tangent there. Aaron wants to try it. Again, like, her and Lefty think it's really cool. April is against it. But right when Aaron's going to do it, the mom shows up. It's like, hey, girls, we got to go. So they all kind of leave. Yeah, it's just kind of like, you know, I think it kind of talks about, like, oh, it's the next couple of days, and like, no one really mentions it, like, the girls don't bring it up, and like, him and Lefty don't really talk about it. And one night he goes up, and he's kind of like, in the middle of the night, he's just like drawn to it. He goes up there, and Lefty kind of spooks him when he's up there, and like, that happens a lot. Lefty's like jumping out of places and trying to scare them. It's kind of a running thing through it, that Lefty's just kind of a little, you know, he is the little brother. Like, he's always jumping out and trying to be part of their crew and scaring him, and he's really, really adamant about, like, wanting to use it. So what they decide to do is, they're both up there in the middle of the night, is they both pull the chain together and they both disappear. So they have some fun with that. They're kind of playing around and, like, you know, just kind of sneak up at each other and do, like, tickling each other and just kind of pushing each other around. I think they toss a ball around for a little bit. And then they pull it to come back, and they don't immediately come back like Max did the first time. And they're definitely getting a little spooked. Like, Lefty gets, you know, he's kind of like, oh, Max, what's going on? You know, looking to the older brother. And Max himself, this is when it starts to give the seed of doubt. Like, hey, maybe this mirror isn't safe. You know, and it takes a while, and they pop back. It takes a couple minutes. And then as soon as they're back, Lefty's like, hey, no, it's cool. Like, no big deal. And again, Max is, like, a little worried about it. But what he wants to do is scare Zach, because Zach hasn't seen yet. Now he's seen Lefty disappear as well, because before he had disappeared, and everyone told him it was, but he wasn't sure if it was an elaborate, like, trick they were doing on him. So then it's back. He wants to pull Zach, and they basically just decide, like, hey, the longer you're gone, the longer it takes to come back. That's just how it works. We've decided, you know, maybe to make themselves feel better, but that's kind of their running theory. So Zach comes over, and they do this big, like, lead up and trick to him. It's also call out, you know, like, he had to go get a new haircut with a cut down the side, which will come into importance later. But Zach's got this new cut going on, and Max and Lefty take him upstairs, and they're kind of just, like, taking the time and playing around, and finally, like, Max pulls the switch and disappears. Zach is obviously blown away. Like he's like, oh, I can't believe this. Max is gone for a bit. He comes back, and Zach's just like, wow, this is crazy. And then they hear the girls. The girls come over. So Max and Lefty kind of leave the room, and they go talk to him, and all of a sudden they come back, and they realize that while they were gone, Zach used the mirror, and he is now gone. So, they're like freaking out, and Zach's kind of messing around and doing the thing, and he stayed away for a certain, I forget how long he does for his time. It's like 7, 8, 9 minutes, somewhere in there. And, then he's like, oh, like, it starts to drain you a bit, like, we really only get like Max's feeling in it, but it's kind of like he's like being pulled away. So after a bit, Zach's kind of like, I'm not feeling the greatest. So they pull the switch. Takes a while for him to come back. It's been gone so long. But they start to turn it into a competition. So they're like, hey, like, let's see who can stay away the longest and like try and beat each other. Zach kind of set that benchmark. So Erin goes next. She goes for a while. She doesn't quite beat Zach, but then it's Max's turn, and when he goes again, he's starting to feel a little woozy, and he's like, okay, bring me back. And I think it's Zach reaches up and pulls the chain, and the chain breaks. So at this point, they're all kind of panicking. Max can't really tell what's going on because he's just getting a little woozy from being there. Luckily, Erin pulls over a box, or I think it's a box or a crate or something, jumps up and like grabs the little piece of string that's left to bring him back. Again, it's now been a while. I believe Max breaks the record because of this, because he was gone for so long. And again, at this point, he's kind of like, well, we should stop using this. Like, that was scary. I was kind of gone for longer than I would have liked. Like, what if that didn't work, or the chain fully broke and I couldn't have came back? Like, what would happen? But they're still going. Lefty wants his turn. He hasn't got a chance at the time yet. At this point, they're still pushing on April, but she's agreed to be kind of the timer to get out of doing it. So she just times everyone when they're gone. But the grandparents show up. So the rest of the kids have to leave. Max and Lefty are supposed to go down for dinner. And Max is down there, and all of a sudden he starts to see some of the food move around, and he realizes that Lefty hadn't left the attic, and he had become invisible, and he was now messing around down at dinner. So Max kind of tries to cover up for it. Like, parents get angry because they're like, where is your brother? Go get him. So he comes up, and again, he has to get Lefty back to the mirror, and they pull the chain, and again, it's just taking longer and longer for him to come back. Like, again, Lefty starts getting a little scared, and Dad's getting mad from downstairs, and just takes forever to come back. At this point, Max is really like, we gotta stop messing around the mirror. Lefty, like, you can't use it, especially when no one's around. Like, stop. It's unsafe. If something was happening to you and you were invisible, like, we'd never know where you were to get you back up to the mirror. So Lefty agrees. They go to bed, and he wakes up in the morning, and Lefty's invisible in his room. So broke his promise immediately, and he's just kind of being weird about it. And Max's fear kind of comes true, is all of a sudden Lefty just doesn't seem to be there. So Max finally goes upstairs and like kind of gets him back, and Lefty comes back, and he's like, hey, no, like, I'm totally fine, like, no big deal. But he's acting very odd. So he went quiet for a bit, and he finally comes back, and he's just being a bit weird. But Max can't really place his finger on it. He's just kind of different. So then what happens is the next day, the rest of the gang shows up at the door. And Max is like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, like, Lefty told us that we're going to continue competition and you're good to go. And he's like, no, like, I actually don't think we should use it anymore. And Lefty isn't even here. He's at a baseball game. But the others are kind of like, hey, we're here. We want to use it. Like, we want to keep the competition going. Erin and Zach are both extremely competitive, and Erin has kind of talked April into possibly taking a chance. They're like, hey, like, April might do it today too, so we got to do it. So Max kind of reluctantly agrees to it. And then one of my favorite part in the books ever is Erin says, let's get invisible. It's always funny to me when they say the name of the book. I like when you can work it in organically. It works here. I'm pretty funny. But yeah, so they're, Max kind of gives in. Like, it's insinuated as well that he has a bit of a crush on Erin, so he's a bit of a pushover there. But against his better judgment, he's like, yep, let's go up and do it. So who goes first? So Aaron goes away first, and again, you know, she comes back and she just seems different. Like he can't put his finger on it. She's kind of weird. He's like, her face, her face looks a little different. You know, what seemed to be symmetrical now it's not. Like what's going on? Zach then goes in. And he's again trying to push for that record. Lefty now has the record because at dinner he was, they counted out and they're like, oh man, like yeah, Lefty has insane. He was there, gone for so long during that one that he definitely has the record. So Zach is pretty adamant to beat it. He goes downstairs. He plays a trick on the neighbors. They're all kind of getting a little brazen out. Aaron also like snuck downstairs. They all thought she was gone. She went downstairs and got a Coke or a drink of some sort. Zach goes and he's like playing a trick on the neighbors and kind of moving his vegetables around to mess with them. And the same thing kind of happens that happened to Lefties. All of a sudden Zach goes quiet. They can't find him. They go upstairs. They pull the light again. Takes a while for Zach to come back, and he comes back and he's like, oh, like everything's fine. Like yeah, I feel great. Like I'm, I'll get that record. I can't remember if he breaks it or not. I don't think he does, or it doesn't say. Yeah, at this point, like again, Max is just like, he's kind of different. Like, but I don't know what it is. So Max is like, I really don't want to do it anymore. I don't care about the competition. I think we should stop using it. But Aaron and Zach grab him and they're like, nope, it's your turn. Like you have to go. And April's just kind of like, what's going on, guys? Like what's happening? And so they push Max to the light and they pull it and he goes invisible. So at this point, he, starting to weird. Like he's still just kind of feeling odd about it and kind of, he wants to come back. He doesn't really know what's going on. And then he is pulled into the mirror. At this point, the kind of crux of the spoiler of the book is revealed. And he comes across his doppelganger, which is his reflection from the mirror. And what the reflectors are doing is they're waiting for the mirror to kind of weaken people, and then they're replacing them in the real world. So at this point, you kind of realize what was different about Aaron and Zach. It really kind of points out that, like, because when he's looking at me, he's different. His haircut is now flipped, and he's like, oh, the cut is on the other side, And so that's it. It's his reflection that's come out. So Aaron and Zach have been replaced. That's why they were pushing him in. So Max fights against his doppelganger. He manages to get away. He gets out. And as soon as he's out, April's kind of like, oh, I think it's my turn. I think she's like, it's my turn. Can't remember. At some point, they're like, oh, April will go. But Aaron and Zach realize that Max had not turned. And so they grab him and they're trying to push him back in again. And Max is fighting them, because he knows he's a little weak from the trip. And, the doppelganger's going to get him this time. There's nothing you can do about it. And then they'll just grab and team up in April and she's done for. And right then, Lefty comes in the room back from baseball. And thinking that the reflection in the mirror is his brother, he yells, think fast, throws the ball. It hits the mirror Max and smashes the mirror. And that causes Aaron and Zach to be returned. Don't really know how that works, but they are now free. So that kind of saves them all. And, they're all fine. It's like, oh, whew, okay, you were right. Like, we shouldn't have used that mirror. Super dangerous, but we're all okay now. And they go downstairs and, Max to Lefty is just like, hey, like, kind of good thing you broke that mirror. Like it was dangerous. And then he realizes that Lefty is throwing and catching with his right hand. And that's where it kind of ends with the fact that it seems like Lefty has been still changed for his doppelganger. So, yeah, pretty good little story. Again, I like the buildup of Max and his kind of like fears growing with the mirror, but kind of giving into that peer pressure. Again, it's one of those ones where it's a supernatural event with the mirror, but it's worked in with kind of real world fears of kind of not fitting in, the kind of the peer pressure of it all. I think the dynamic of the two brothers is really strong in this one. Like Lefty is the perfect bratty little brother, and it's written really well. So this is a good story in that sense. I think the biggest problem for me with this one is that while I like the twist ending of a Lefty, being taken over and being righty and the mirror person actually getting him, I don't think that it really makes sense in the scheme of the story, where him breaking the mirror turned the other two back, but somehow he remains out. It's one of those things that just doesn't make sense. I've thought about it before. It was like Lefty taken young, and this was his real one getting out. But it doesn't really make sense, that he wouldn't be like, oh my God, Max, I've been trapped in that mirror for forever. So it seems like that is the doppelganger who's got out, who's aware now that he's out, and right-handed. And I don't think it implies that either Aaron or Zach, and it could be missed and very quick and whatever, that they're left-handed now. So I think that part's a little odd. I think it just kind of negates something that happened in the story for a shock ending, which is why I'm going to give this book an A. I still think it's a fantastic story. Again, I think it's very simple. It's just about the mirror in the attic. It's a very simple story, basically one location for most of it, just the attic. They're obviously in the house and they go out in the garden and they have the dinner scene and whatnot. But it basically takes place in the attic with the mirror, and it's just kind of about that peer pressure of kind of using it and trying to go longer, even though it's dangerous. And I think that part's really well done. It just gets docked a bit because of the Lefty twist. While I like the twist, it doesn't fit the rest of the story, which just kind of irks me a little bit. As for the cover, again, I think it's a pretty good one, but it's not the best. So this is where I'm kind of torn on this one. Because I'm somewhere between an A and a B. I like it. I like the color of it. The dark green seems to go well with it. The style of the kid is good. It's just, I don't find it the most interesting. Like I said, I actually kind of like this one better, I think. I just feel it's more dynamic. The kid kind of freaking out as he goes. So, I think I'll have to give this one a B. It's a high B. I think the only other one I have in there so far is Monster Blood, and it's definitely better than Monster Blood, but I'm kind of looking at what I gave the other ones, and I gave Cheese and Die and Mummy's Tomb, which I do think I like better, A's. So, this will be B. Again, when I get to my full ranking order, that might change. Maybe I like it more than... I like it. This one's a tough one. This is one of the tougher ones I've had between an A and a B, because it's right there. It's borderline. It's very close. It's a cool one. I like the mirror shot. I almost feel like I wish you could see more of the mirror and more of the attic, not as closed in. Or maybe if the problem is it'd be cool if it was kind of showing a little thing, but I'm glad it doesn't spoil it. If they had a menacing grin on it. That would kind of ruin it, so I like that they didn't do that. But it's just a little bland to some of the other ones. I got to think ahead of other ones that I know of, and I think this one is a bit lower, at least of the early ones I can think of list. So we'll go there. So that's the rating of Let's Get Invisible. Next up will be, what book is next? Night of the Living Dummy. So that's a classic. Again, as I was kind of saying, right, I feel like these two were the first two I really heard people talk about, and then two books came that just exploded, and one of them is Night of the Living Dummy. The other one, which we'll get to in the relative near future, is The Haunted Mask. I mean, of the early ones, I think it was these two helped Goosebumps get its footing, and then those two exploded the popularity, in my opinion, just from what I remember reading these as a kid. And I'm excited to reread it. I haven't got to Haunted Mask yet. So again, I know the entire story, but I'm interested to read it again, and kind of get that wave of nostalgia for it. So that's going to do it for this one. Anyone who is making it through these, I appreciate you. Again, if you have any feedback or anything like that, feel free to leave it. I do worry I'm getting a little too much into the story, but you know, maybe I can stick to some more plot points. But I kind of want to explain the full story, and I get it ruins it for some people who maybe want to read it. But at this point, if you know you haven't read it, I don't know if these point notes are really going to ruin it for you, or you know, I don't know why you're watching it either. Kind of one of those oddities, but I feel like it's good to talk out the points so I can kind of relay why I liked it based on those things. I try to stick to points that kind of sway my stuff a bit. I leave out some of the filler, or try to, but you know, maybe I'll try and tighten up a bit as these videos are getting a bit long. Yeah, also leave your opinion on the book. Again, if you're this far into the video, what you thought, you know, how you'd rate it. Leave that below.
Thanks for watching. Please click to check out my other videos, like and subscribe, and come by Twitch under Floyd Mason to join my live streams.